Okay, we're recording.
All
So welcome,
right.
Madison. Madison's the one who actually let us know about the Signal Hill Petroleum, which is, I was just super impressed. So anyway, I'm so glad that you could be here to talk to us about what you know and what's going on. So yeah, thank you, Madison.
Thank you too. Yeah, thanks. I don't have anything fancy prepared, just can have kind of more of a conversation since we're a small group. So so Signal Hill, I mean, y'all I know have been fighting the Long Beach oil stuff, and I know folks on the call are probably involved to varying degrees. It's kind of a similar story in Signal Hill where oil has always been part of the deal since the beginning. And I mean, Kaylee knows the history even better. But so there's kind of these like residential oil drill sites really close to people's houses, schools, playgrounds, all these things. And in Long Beach, it sounds like the city actually owns the wells, but in Signal Hill, it's actually a private, separate company. It's called Signal Hill Petroleum. So although it could sound like they are the city, Signal Hill Petroleum, they are a private oil company. And they want to extend their permit another 20 years, which is an unprecedented length of time. They acquired like these wells in 1998, and since then there's been like usually like each permit is 2 years long. Some of them have been like as many as 5 to 10 years, but that's pretty rare. Like usually it's 2 years. The last permit was in 2021 and it was only 2 years. It just expired. And so, you know, it's not too surprising that they want to lock in another 20 years while they can. There's a lot of this is a very convenient time to try to lock things in for a lot of different reasons. Um, if y'all are familiar with SB 1137, it's the Senate bill which Gavin Newsom signed into law in September, but can't be enacted yet because, well, first I'll describe what it is just briefly. It's each now, I'm talking about these residential oil drilling sites that are so close to homes and everything. Like we now have so much more data coming in. Like LA County Department of Public Health published a study of all of the carcinogens and like asthma, breathing impacts, birth defects, things like that from living near wells. So now the kind of consensus is, hey, let's not drill any new wells within 3,200 feet. That's 10 times the current setback distance of 300 feet for new wells from sensitive receptors, meaning like houses, schools, places where people spend a lot of time. And so basically, SB 1137 is this bill that would like enforce that 3,200 foot health protection zone, no new wells within these areas, and also like phase out and kind of like have more, I don't know all the details, but like have more restrictions on current wells. Point is, this is all of Signal Hill's wells. There's 7 drill sites. They all are very much too close to houses, and like there's like, actually I'll show this graphic. One of my friends made it. Let me share my screen. Like, so these are the 7 drill sites. You can't really see them delineated perfectly, but like we drew a radius of kind of like the health danger zone around each drill site, and it pretty much covers the entire city of Signal Hill, even extending into Long Beach a bit. There's some like triple, quadruple threat overlaps. So anyway, it's like very bad from a human health perspective, and obviously from a climate perspective too, because this is going to lock in another 20 years of methane leaking from all these sites, all the things. So anyway, what's happening right now is so the city of Signal Hill has to approve the permit extension. They are the ones in control. So they are kind of the decision point that we could go after to try to stop this. is, I don't know if y'all are familiar with, like, well, I'll just explain briefly, like, CEQA is a process where, like, I think it's just that, like, any public entity, if they want to do a project, they need to get approval or kind of like go through their due diligence of looking through the environmental impacts of what the project would do. So there's kind of this multi-stage, regulated by the state of California process for any public entity in the state of California. They gotta like do this whole process. So that's what the city's in now. They can't just put a stamp of approval on the permit just yet, although they probably want to, because they're pretty good friends with the oil company by what we can tell. But they are required legally to go through this process. So that process started in January. There was an initial study and a scoping meeting where they kind of described the project, and there was a public hearing for that. Me and one other person attended virtually. We both spoke out against it. There were two people in person who both were very for it. Very like, Signal Hill Petroleum is a great neighbor. They're awesome. They definitely, the oil company markets themselves as like a very great response, like environmentally responsible, neighbor, and they're heavily involved in city government. I have a lot of like fun facts about them if you want, but like, so point is, if we don't do anything, the city's probably just going to approve it, business as usual. And so now, the next kind of, so in January, there was an opportunity for public comment, like written comments, and you could go to the public hearing and speak. There's going to be kind of another version of that now in May. We don't have a specific date yet from the city because they're not probably, they don't really want to be, I've like definitely annoyed the city person because I keep on emailing her like, do you have an updated date? And she's like, just May, it's sometime in May. So, but we have good reason to know that it should be like mid to late May is when they will release the draft environmental impact report. So that's the kind of the step 2 in the CEQA process. They're going to release a draft environmental impact report. There's going to be a month-long public comment period. So it'll probably be us emailing like the community development director, and you could also email the city council members, but the key person is the community development director to say, like, I mean, ostensibly this public comment period is like, you are reading the draft environmental impact report and you're pointing out flaws in it, but you can still also say like, hey, you're not fully considering all of the climate ramifications of this and the human health ramifications of this, and just kind of voicing your dissent and your like pushback on this, the fact that they're approving the permit at all would be great. And there should also be a public hearing. We don't have a date or anything, like no details on that yet, but that would also be very impactful for folks to show up at. And they'll give you like 2 minutes of time to speak and just, voicing that you don't want another 20 years of oil in Signal Hill. It's not safe from human health impacts, things like that would be very impactful because, like I said, the attendees were so slim at the previous one, and the city is very pro oil. So that's kind of like a big overview. I have a few more things to say, but I want to pause for questions and discussion.
So for anyone new to this space, we like to use a star in the chat if you would like to speak, so that lets me know to call on you. And Madison, it looks like we have one question in the chat so far. What commission or meeting will the draft EIR be up for public comment at?
Okay. Yes. So the place it's going to be posted, and this is the page that I'm like refreshing all the time to see if they've posted it yet, is City of Signal Hill current projects. I just posted it in the chat. You can also Google it, but basically I'll also share my screen. This is like the city's website where they post all of their current projects. And it currently still has the info back from January about the initial kind of kickoff study for this. So it talks about the permit. I failed to mention it's not just 20 more years, it's also their ability to drill up to 46 brand new wells. So it's like multiple bad things. And this website is also where you can see they have this like notice of preparation. I guess it's downloading, but there's also the initial study, which is like the first. This is kind of like the preliminary draft EIR. It's like the draft EIR. So it's basically the draft EIR is kind of going to be like an expansion of this. But it has a lot of the juicy details of like what they're actually planning to do. It's pretty dense, but there's useful things like this where you can see here's the drill sites and how close they are to people's houses. They have to like report that. So one is like 25 feet away. But yeah, yes, to answer your question, going to the current project site is going to be where it's posted. And Colleen Doan is the community development director. She's the person we submitted public comments to back in January. So she's probably also going to be the person we're submitting public comments to now in May. Just like emailing this email. There's like details in the notice of preparation in January on details to submit public comment, but they should update a whole new thing once they release it.
Okay, so we've got a few questions from Clayton. Have you asked for a meeting with any of the council members?
No. Yeah, the only way I've reached out to council members so far is just like I CC'd them on my public comment back in January, but I never got a reply. So, and I don't really have a good sense of like who's on the city council very well, like what their kind of political leaning is. But if anyone else has intel on that, that would be great. Or like recommendations of specific council members to talk to, or even like specific people within the city or chamber of commerce or things like that who would be like more likely to help us.
Okay, so I think from Kurt, another question. So this is separate from city council. I think we're trying to tease out like who is like the entity responsible for this. And my question just thrown in there was like, yeah, what does Colleen Doan do? Like what's her
Sure.
role? Like
She is the community development director, Colleen Doan. So she is a member of the city staff. I don't think that that's an elected position. I think she's just a city staff person, and she's been there for a while, from what I can tell. She's definitely around for the 2021 version of this and spoke favorably about it in a news article. Yeah.
Okay, just to make sure I didn't get to Kirk's question. So is this separate from city council?
I guess what is this? Like Colleen or
Kurt, do you want to clarify?
Oh, am I mute? Okay, I'm not mute. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, will this meeting be something that'll be at a presentation that'll be given at a city council meeting, or if this is a planning commission meeting, or if this is its own thing that Signal Hill Petroleum runs?
Oh, well, it's definitely, this stuff is definitely the city, because the city has to approve the permit, and the city is the one conducting that has to do the CEQA process. So conducting this initial study, the draft EIR, all these things. Let me, the notice of preparation. I just downloaded it. It should have a little bit more detail. I forgot who this was. Let's see. So this was the meeting that we did. The city will hold a private council chamber. I can't remember if the city council members were there or not.
Like, who is the one who grants the conditional use permit? Is it the planning commission or is it the city council?
I think it's ultimately the planning commission, because Colleen told me via email that the final step in this process is a planning commission hearing,
Okay.
which should take place in October or November. And I remember looking up, like there was, like you can look up previous versions of this in 2019. Okay, yeah, honorable chair, members of the planning commission, public hearing. Here's Colleen. Public hearing, 1-year extension of the conditional use permit. So I think the final step is the planning commission. I guess I don't know to what extent city council even has say, which is kind of interesting. Do you know? My fiance is also here. She knows more about the CEQA process.
Okay, hello everybody.
This is the Stephanie. This is one of the two Stephanies.
Yeah, my name is Stephanie, Madison's fiance. We kind of co-founded Climate Brunch by accident, I think.
It was just for fun. It was just,
yeah, so
brunch.
So the planning commission votes on it, whether to move it towards a vote, a final vote with the city council. So the city council is involved in this. So essentially both boards or both parties have a say in this. I'm sure they're kind of already talking in the background to say, okay, you'll say yay, and then we'll say yay, and we'll get this through. I don't think they'll ever be in conflict, but that's how it goes.
Oh yeah, and actually you can see here in this old 2019 thing, it's like planning commission is recommending city council to approve. So yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah.
Thanks, babe.
Okay, awesome. So let me make sure I get everybody who's in the chat. I think next is Sarah.
I guess I had two kind of clarification questions. One, since I'm very new to this, are there any considerations about us being like residents of Long Beach versus residents of Signal Hill? My first question.
I think it'd be obviously better, like the closer you are to living in Signal Hill, the better, because then the city council is going to feel more of a stake in, if they're any elected official is going to feel more of a stake in your thought about them. But there's no restriction on who can post a public comment. Like I'm posting public comments. I live in Pasadena. It's meant, like the CEQA process is also meant for like even state agencies and various things to post comments about this. So it's pretty much like anyone who lives in California is free to do a public comment.
Okay, sweet.
And should.
And then I think my other clarification question is around, so Senate Bill 1137, is that the one that's going to be put to a referendum vote like next year?
Yes. It's going to be on the ballot 2024.
Okay, so then I guess in the context of that, is the intention with the permit effort here is like basically if Senate Bill 1137 doesn't pass and this permit does pass, that would mean they can drill for 20 years. And so we're kind of just, like needing to preempt the situation where 1137 doesn't pass.
Kind of, even if 1137 does pass, they would still be able to do 20 more years. It would just be like, I think, more restrictions. The only thing that they wouldn't be able to do is drill new wells. For sure, if SB 1137 passes, the new wells will not be allowed. Unless if someone else has a different understanding, let me know. But so this is definitely preemptive for if it doesn't pass, they're just going to have more ability to like do whatever they want and drill the new wells. But SB 1137 is not the only thing that's kind of coming down the pipe, because LA County Board of Supervisors just said like they don't want any more oil and trying to phase out existing things. LA County, LA City, I guess this is outside the city, but there's kind of a lot of pressure, a lot of people from different sides kind of saying like, hey, no more residential drilling. So pretty sure that's the overall kind of environment in which they're like trying to lock it in for another 20 years.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, and speaking of people who know a lot about this, Kaylee.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, there's so many people that know about this too, and thanks Madison and Tracy for really spearheading this. Yeah, I think it's really Signal Hill, I think is a very unique situation. I think it has a very, as you pointed out, the dynamics in terms of the relationship between city and oil is obviously very different than Long Beach. But some things that really struck me from just doing work there the last, couple of years was one, it's a very small city, right? There's like 10,000 residents. And so there's a really great opportunity, I think, to like show up and you will be noticed. So for example, like I remember going to these budget meetings and like I was the only person, maybe other than one or two other residents that were at these budget meetings. And because I asked a question at the budget meeting, I was able to interview and meet with Colleen and other people from the city. And again, it was very much like, oh, we remember you because you sat through a budgeting meeting. So it's very different than I think like Long Beach and especially LA, where it's really hard to get the ear. That said, I think one thing that I've noticed is it seems like in Signal Hill, there's very little energy or interest about doing anything about oil. I think a lot of the energy is coming from Long Beach, which of course does it make a difference? I mean, the health impacts are going to affect Long Beach residents. So I think there is I think we have a claim to make arguments about what's going on in Signal Hill, but that's one thing. Like it's a very small pond. The other thing I think that makes Signal Hill kind of interesting, and it changes the kind of dynamics around the relationship, is like Signal Hill, unlike Long Beach, the city apparently gets its very little revenue from drilling in the city. So it's not about like in Long Beach where it's like, well, how are we going to make up the money? That's not really the argument so much. The power dynamics, I think, are quite different, where Signal Hill Petroleum is the largest landowner. They're the largest taxpayer. They're integral to, so for example, if you look at the housing element plan that was just passed, where Signal Hill is committing to build thousands of new affordable housing units as a part of the statewide housing plan. Who's the partner in this? It's Signal Hill Petroleum. And it's not that there's anything like insidious necessarily about this. It's the fact that they're again, unlike what happens in Long Beach, the driller is also in many cases is in Signal Hill primarily the landowner as well. So there's a very different, I think, kind of dynamic. And so I've just been thinking a lot about that in terms of how do you change the conversation around like the relationship between governance and oil. So that's the other thing. And one other point that I do think is really important, like even just not even a year ago, like I said, I was having this call with Colleen and Scott, Scott's left. Who else was there? A couple other people. And they said, like, and I don't think they were being disingenuous. They're just like, oh, we don't really have the evidence that drilling is like bad for health. Like I think there's a real opportunity to be like, here's all the information. Like, it doesn't seem like you're up to date about the current research. And I think that's like one of these avenues that it seems like, besides the kind of political relationships, which I think are a lot more complicated than just like, oh, the cities and the pockets of the oil company. It's like they're really, really integrated in, I think, really complicated ways. But it seems like the city has been making decisions based on this idea that there aren't really implications. And as like you pointed out, Signal Hill goes above and beyond any other company I've ever met in terms of being a good neighbor. So I met with them like 3 or 4 times. They gave me tours. They're really, really pitching this idea that drilling, yeah, it's a nuisance. But as long as you control the nuisance, it's okay. So as long as there's not noise, and as long as those lights are turned down, and as long as, you know, the fences are painted and we respond to our neighbors' concerns, everything is fine. And so I think that's the kind of way the city is treated at this, as well as like, if we manage the nuisance side of drilling, then our neighbors don't really care. And I think that's like the powerful way that you folks and Sunrise and that can get in there too, is by just making a lot more transparent to this and forcing the city, I think, on their heels to actually respond to the research that's showing that there are health impacts. Yeah, so it's an exciting space, I think, to be intervening in, and I'm really happy you folks are taking the lead and talking to folks and producing pamphlets and showing maps. It's awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all that, like, really good info. That was some really good points, because, you know, you sounds like you've talked to them a lot more. Do you have a sense of if there's anyone who would be more receptive to these things, or do you recommend that I really just like reach out to Colleen and say, hey, can I talk with you and show you all the health impacts? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think Colleen is your person, and Colleen's been there for years.
okay.
I think Colleen is, and another thing to note, Signal Hill, even before SB 1137, they've been trying to make these longer, they have these longer permitting extensions, because they were basically saying like, oh, it's a hassle because we can't, one of the things, again, to think about the Signal Hill Petroleum is not just an oil company, but also as a developer, like how they're if they don't have permitting, or there's uncertainty around permitting, it's making their development plans, like even if you look at these housing element plans, which wells they're planning on plugging, how they're designing housing, like that makes it a lot more difficult. So I think you're going to see them probably making like a business case argument about certainty in terms of like the other side of their business, which is well remediation and property development. But yeah, my understanding, and I know there's been a bit of shuffle, like Scott, who was there, is gone. But Colleen, my understanding, is the person that's, just a really key decision maker in the city, when it comes to zoning and all and this kind of permitting things. But yeah, there has been a push to extend permitting for several years. But you're right, like 20 years seems really, really, is out of the ordinary.
And health impacts is kind of the way to go. I figure that's the angle to go rather than climate change. No one cares.
Climate's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay. That's really helpful. Thank you.
All right, Clayton.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Kaylee. You said a lot of amazing, perfect things that I was gonna say as well, but you said much better than I could ever do. And yeah, so like, I just agree, I've worked with Signal Hill for the past 5 or 6 years, and it's like, they almost pride themselves on being like non-political and like this safe, like quiet community within the chaos surrounding them. And so it can be very hard to kind of galvanize people to show up to meetings and speak, because they just don't want that kind of activity in City Hall almost. And so and then the other thing that I was going to kind of say is like, is that a leveraging point of saying, hey, instead of doing 20 years, can we maybe bring you down to 10 or 5? But I think Kaylee's absolutely right that they're trying to really think more long-term about this. And so I don't know, it's kind of interesting, but I don't know if that's a worthy leveraging or bargaining point for you all. And then my other question was just like, are you working with other groups? I know you all were at the picnic last weekend or 2 weekends ago now. I'm just curious, like, has Sierra Club or any other group said, hey, yeah, we'll help you out, like this, this is a great project and something we want to organize around. So I'm just curious if other groups are reaching out.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that last 2 weeks ago at Earth Day was like the first time we got kind of plugged in with other groups pretty much. But yes, since then, Sierra Club is helping us set up a petition that we will be like passing out, like putting on our next iteration of the flyer. And that we were thinking if like we could make the petition and like submit that also as a public comment, like still encourage people to do their own public comments, but then like also submit that as a public comment. I don't know. And then, yeah, Senator Lena Gonzalez has taken an interest in this. And like, so we have some upcoming events, actually, that I wanted to let y'all know about. We'll post about them on Instagram. And yeah, Sierra Club may or may not be like helping us with these events, but they're definitely going to be attending. So May 20th, Saturday, May 20th, we are hoping to do like a massive flyering campaign, like all hands on deck,
Door to door.
yeah, door to door, publicize it to all your channels, anyone and everyone, you're welcome. We'll like divide it up, be like, you take the street, whatever. We'll have a plan, like depending on how many people RSVP, and kind of divvy people up. Maybe post some folks at farmers markets because we had good success with that. And so, and with this updated version of the flyer, we would have a link to the petition and a direct link to the draft EIR, assuming that it does come out on track in mid-May, as they say. So that'll be like a day-long thing that would be great to have any of y'all part of if you want. And then May 27th, the last Saturday in May, we were planning to make this virtual just for ease, but like a virtual write and submit your public comments event. And yeah, so we'll post talking points on our Instagram, but and then like kind of reiterate over those in the event and have people like right then and there write it out and submit it. Oh yeah, and then yeah, we got like another set of like emails we can reach out to from the Sierra Club. Like Sierra Club is kind of sharing with us some contacts, like the contacts from the Earth Day event. So we're going to reach out to that channel too. And the other thing we've got going on is some local reporters. Like Nancy had connected me with Sarah Bass, who's still working on her story for the Seal Beach Sun, but actually Beachcomber, Long Beach newspaper is going to be publishing probably this week a story about this. So and they intend to actually follow it. They want to keep following it as it develops. So I think that's pretty exciting. But yeah, so I guess we're working with y'all, Sunrise, Long Beach, like Clean Break, or sorry, Sierra Club / Clean Break, and Protect Puvunga as well, like a little bit. We're kind of in communication with Ann Cantrell too. Yeah.
Okay, so I see that Clayton says reach out to Kier Jones.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Kier Jones, thank you.
Yeah, he's a council member, and I just named him because he's kind of like a mover and shaker within Democratic Party politics locally as well. And so he's someone that should really know these issues, but again, is very, he knows the relationship that Signal Hill has with, the city. I mean, with the petroleum has with the city, but like, it would just be interesting to kind of put some pressure on him, be like, hey, you want to go places, we're all watching you take this vote to extend oil for another 20 years. But that's, you can discuss that within your internal campaign meetings, but just throwing that out there.
Oh no, I think that's a great plan. Thank you. So he's on city council, as like Signal Hill City Council?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's really helpful. The other interesting thing I'll post in the chat too, which is like another way to kind of submit public, like they have this, they're finally for the first time going to include environmental justice in their general plan this year. So they have this like survey that's like, what could we possibly do for environmental justice? We don't know, tell us. So maybe we could all tell them to stop oil, because
Well, it's mainly for residents.
it's mainly for residents. It's supposed to be just for residents, but I don't know. I'm kind of tempted. But if you know any residents, definitely send it their way. I wonder if Cure is behind any of this, or because we were kind of curious. We're like, oh, this seems very progressive, but
And random.
yeah.
Okay, and then I see Kurt has 3 stars in the chat.
I just wanted to point out that May 20th, if you were planning on doing that for your firing day, that is also the same day as Beach Streets, which if you're not from Long Beach, you might not have heard of it, but Beach Streets is probably going to be the biggest biking event of the entire year.
Oh,
So yeah, that's a big time event. There's going to be a whole bunch of people. So you might save yourself some effort by just being in attendance at Beach Streets. We're going to have a table. Sierra Club's going to have a table. So you can use that as an opportunity to reach a lot of people rather than, you know, maybe going door to door that particular day, because
thank you.
this is going to be, you know, we'll probably see maybe a few thousand people going past us at the intersection that we'll be at, which is still to be determined. But yeah, so I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, because I know you guys are in Pasadena. So
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you so much. Can we give y'all some flyers for your table?
Yeah, I mean, depending on how you want to do it, you guys could totally
you can volunteer. We're looking
be
for
there.
volunteers.
You could be there talking to people at our booth if you wanted. We're just now starting to set up sort of an idea of what we're going to do. I mean, obviously, do whatever you need to do, what your plan is, but the invitation is open if you would like to join us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're just trying to think of the most effective places to go. Like, we were thinking door-to-door flyering in the places close to the drill sites, because it's like, hey, you're being impacted, but like, it's also like strategic to go to people who are going to be more receptive. Like, people who bike are probably maybe generally more receptive to this. So yeah. Let me know if you have if there's any other kind of like events, other weekends too. The Earth Day Fair was really good.
Yeah, that's the big one that I know of in May.
Okay,
So.
thank you. Cool. Okay, I'll let y'all know.
Yeah, and I mean, at the very least, we could definitely have some flyers.
Okay, maybe we could plan. I'll run it by the other climate brunchers, but maybe we could plan to have at least like one of us stationed there, and then maybe other people could go other places. And so.
Yeah.
Well, question.
Oh,
all right. Sorry, I'm awkwardly interfering. If we move this is just hypothetical because we have to run it by the others. If we move our mass firing to another day, or maybe the next day or another weekend, would y'all be comfortable with blasting your, I guess, people who are on your email list to see who would want to volunteer to do the door-to-door in Signal Hill? Because I think both that biking event is great, while at the same time we really want to target Signal Hill residents, because they have the most power in this situation. So yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So we have a Slack channel that we post things like calls to action and everything. So I'll definitely post it on the Slack. We're kind of figuring out our outreach like methods right now, but we have an email list, and I would definitely be happy to just try and get some people out. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, I'll share it.
Cool.
And I'm sure there's a couple people who might be interested in doing that.
Cool. The more the merrier. Yeah. Thanks for letting us know about the bikes and stuff too. Yay.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. Let me see if I missed anything in the chat. I don't think so. Okay. Yeah, Sarah.
Sorry, this might have been covered since I was late, but could I get a spiel on like what is Climate Brunch or where it happens?
That's fair. Yeah, sorry. I didn't actually give that yet.
Oh, I want to be a part of this.
Okay, all right. Well, we just started Climate Brunch as like a New Year's resolution because we just wanted to get more involved in climate activism stuff, and we just like started having brunch with our friends and like kind of doing generic like actions from climate change makers. Like they have like little like kind of broad actions for people to do. And then we came across this Signal Hill thing by looking at the CEQA portal, which is actually a great tool to be aware of. Like you can just Google CEQA, SEQA and like look up whatever city you want and see what's going on there. And we saw this like 20 years more of oil and we're like, okay.
Or you could also search oil. You know, there's like a special search where you could just put oil or gas, and then
Yeah.
anything relating to that will pop up. But like I love brunch. Madison does too. And you know, New Year's resolution came around and we're just like, we want to be more active with our environmentalism. You know, we really care about the environment. I'm just like, we got to put our money where our mouth is. We got to do something. So
And we got to make it fun. It's got to be social.
Yeah,
you know, got to have like go to motivate our friends to come with like brunch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's as if I was like luring my friends to do something with us too. So we're like, let's just have brunch and just, you know, read these petitions, do it together. So that's how it really came about. And then we invited a friend of mine, Steph Ling, and her partner, and they're both really into this too. And so we just thought, well, the four of us, we're kind of like, you know, power team. So let's do something together. And then we latched onto Signal Hill, and that's our project right now. It's only 5 of us. So we can't do more than that right now. Yeah.
But yeah, and then we started the Instagram to kind of keep publicizing.
And y'all, if you have any tips on Instagram posts, like I've never used Instagram before. I know I'm young, but I just don't have an Instagram, and
none of us do. We're like, we like boycotted social media, and now we're like,
yeah,
we're inept.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
so yeah, if you see any posts that look kind of shitty, just DM us, all right, and be like, hey, you gotta work on it. Oh my god.
That's so funny because Kurt literally earlier today was like, because he and I live together, we're partners, but he was like, how do you use Instagram? How do you post a link?
Yeah,
you can't, it turns out.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fun.
Like, oh my god,
you can do it in stories. You can do it in stories. That's the only way you can post
okay.
links. Yeah.
Or you can have a link tree. What people like to do is put a link tree in their bio and then say link in bio.
That's what we just learned.
What the hell? We were like, why in the bio? Why in the bio? That's so weird. What? Like, I feel so old.
I want my MySpace.
I needed to ask, what's the difference between a story and a reel, because they both
still don't know.
One disappeared.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Oh god. Anyway. Yeah.
But yeah, we just get brunch and do climate things. And
I did the logo. I'm proud of that damn logo. Someone's like, you should put a mimosa. And I'm like, no, it has to be coffee. Anyway, so I did that. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the main stuff I had. Just follow us on Instagram. We're going to post whenever the city releases that draft DIR. Going to post some talking points, submit it. We'll share the petition, share it out. I also, in the Slack, replying to Nancy's post about tonight, I posted our flyers that we made, the current versions that we have. We will update those as soon as the city releases stuff and we get the petition and everything. But even in their current form, would love for you to pass them out. We're paranoid about posting them to like public right of way, because like we're technically not supposed to, and we don't really want to get in trouble, but I don't know. But yeah, like just posting them out, like pinning them to coffee shop bulletin boards, or like passing them out at farmers markets, or just like, you know, drop it in your neighbor's mailbox, which you can do.
No, not the mailbox.
Oh, not the mailbox.
No.
That's the illegal thing. Sorry.
Yes.
On the doorstep.
On the doorstep. Not the mailbox.
Or to their hand.
Don't put it in mailboxes. That's illegal.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I revoked.
That's what I
revoked
just said.
Thank you. I forgot about that. But yeah.
Oh, I wanted to mention one quick thing. You were talking about some way of showing off your petition in the like city council form. So Kurt and I were just at a harbor commissioner meeting, and one of the things that our friend Danielle did is printed out like I don't know how many signatures were on it, but printed out all the signatures on this big ass banner thing and then unfurled it and rolled it down so
Ooh.
that yeah, so just since I just witnessed that, I just wanted to bring that up as like maybe you don't do everything like that, but somehow some kind of visual of the petition could be effective.
And
That's a
roll
great
it
idea.
out in the meeting, or how, where was this rolled out?
Well, technically, Kurt, did you end up rolling it, or did you end up just you know, unhooking it?
Make a big show of it. Yes.
Yeah.
And was
So,
that a city council meeting or
mm,
some?
uh, it was a harbor commissioner meeting for we were working on the Port of Long Beach pollution.
Mm, no,
That's a
yeah,
great
no,
idea.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, some folks might say you're being dramatic, but that's
Nah.
what it is, you know. That's how you gain attention. So I'm all for it.
A little
Let's
bit
go.
of theater.
Yeah.
Exactly. I used to do
I mean,
improv, so let's go.
you gotta make a statement, you know? We gotta be heard, be seen. So,
Yeah.
anyway, this has been so amazing. Does anyone else have any questions, comments, closing thoughts?
Just want to say I'm really glad you guys started doing this.
Thanks. Thanks
Yeah.
for I'm glad. Yeah, thanks for inviting us here, and maybe I'll try to join more of these sync ups. Usually, yeah, we're kind of busy doing a lot of things, but
Yeah. In May, we're definitely busy, but even after the EIR, after the public
oh
comment
yeah, there's gonna be
closes,
more.
what do you mean it's gonna be more?
Oh, there's gonna be drill sites in June. There's gonna be the planning commission hearing in October, so there's
Okay.
gonna be more things.
So
to do.
yeah, like this isn't the final step. We're still gonna keep on trucking until the final decision is made with the city, and hopefully we could have some influence. So we'll see.
Yeah, thanks for your help.
And we'll be updating all of our steps on Instagram. So
Mhm.
throughout the months, you'll be seeing new things, and all of our posts will basically be Signal Hill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll keep in touch, keep updating us, and let us know what you decide about beach streets or flyering, and I'll be happy to put that in our, channels. Um, and yeah, this is super important, and I'm just really grateful for all of the work that you guys have put in. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you too.
Yeah.
And I think if we do show up, in droves, like if you were just there and there are only two people having comment, I mean, if we show up with a dozen people, I mean, that's kind of a lot, and that kind of makes a statement. So I think that should definitely be a goal, if we can, the in-person meeting,
Definitely.
show up in force. So
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yay.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Okay.
Cool.